The SPY is currently at extremely important trendline resistance. So in today's video, we're going to go over that level of resistance. We're going to go over the NASDAQ and how parabolic it's going currently. We're going to go over the bonds, the dollar, and the entire crypto market. So without further ado, let's get right into it. But if you guys enjoy my content, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends and family so you can make money together. Anyway, this is the chart of the SPY. All right, and we currently are at a very important level of resistance. You can see this trend line right here. So what I just did is I made the trend line black, and as we can see, as you zoom out, that same trend line was support from back at the bottom of the crash in March. Okay, so you can see that it acted as support 1, 2, 3 times, 4 times, and then all throughout this entire area here, it was acting as clear resistance and support. And now we have literally touched right back at it currently. Okay, so now this is a very, very important range for the SPY right now. If we can cross above this level and start consolidating above it, we can potentially start trading comfortably above this level, as we were this entire year. We were comfortably trading above this level. So let's see once more if we can continue doing that on the SPY. We were also looking at how this important blue level of resistance was resistance. We consolidated above this level for 3 days in a row here, and then we just continued and began to skyrocket. All right, so now essentially we need to see how the SPY responds all throughout this area. So as you can see, obviously this blue line is now acting as support. All right, but tomorrow the level that needs to break for tomorrow to remain above this level is going to be approximately 434.50. So if tomorrow we start trading and we close above 434.50, that is going to be very, very bullish. Okay, and then we need to see if we can continue and consolidate and hold that level. But currently, if you look at the SPY right now, there are multiple warning signals to the downside. All right, number one, we are very, very overextended outside of the upper level of the B band. So I was showing that, you know, it looks like the SPY is going to explode. The B bands are pointed upward, and that's exactly what's happening here. The SPY obviously started going parabolic once we crossed above this level of resistance back a few days ago. But now we are very far away from the positive standard deviation, away from the median level. And when that happens, very often that means that it's signaling a return to the mean. Okay, so we are at resistance. We're very overextended outside of the upper level of the B band. We're now we actually now are overbought on the RSI, and we are extremely overbought on the MACD. Okay, so those are 4 different reasons why we should potentially start being careful on the SPY and start looking towards taking profits soon. Okay, the only other time in the past year that a bullish move like this happened was back in April, and we never returned to the mean. That was the only time in a year that something like this had happened. And also in April, the RSI was also extremely overbought as well on the SPY. So we just have to see how the other indices are doing as well to see whether or not the SPY has more room to go and can break this level to the upside. Otherwise, this is going to remain as the level of resistance, and 434.50 needs to break tomorrow. All right, so that's that on the SPY. Let's check out the Qs and the rest of the indices. So clearly we can see that the NASDAQ is also, you know, going parabolic. It was going very, very strongly. It consolidated for 2 days as the end of the month rebalancing occurred. We did have, you know, a consolidation. We almost retested this level of support, and then we just skyrocketed on Friday. We can see that the RSI is also extremely overbought here, but the MACD is pointed downwards. So the MACD is pointed downwards, but the NASDAQ is continuing to make new all-time highs. And that was something that was continuing to happen all throughout here. When the MACD was pointed downwards, yet we continued going on higher, which signaled extreme strength in the NASDAQ. So we aren't as overextended on the NASDAQ because one of the reasons is that we aren't extremely overextended on the MACD, and we also aren't extremely overextended outside of the upper level of the B band, which still signals that there is still more room to go to the upside on the NASDAQ. All right. So once more, this trend line here is very, very important for the NASDAQ to sustain itself in this uptrend. And for tomorrow, that level of support is going to be approximately 354. Honestly, if it stays above 354, that will be very, very bullish for the NASDAQ. And overall, the NASDAQ did rebound from its weak day, specifically because the end of the month rebalancing finished. And you can also see that the IWM was the biggest loser. So the NASDAQ was the clear big winner out of the other indices. And the IWM, the financial sector, took a heavy, heavy hit. More specifically because the 30-year bond had a bullish move. So once again, when the 30-year yield is doing well, that means that the NASDAQ is going to do well. If the 30-year yield is doing poorly, that means that the banking industry and the IWM will be doing well. Because if investors and banks and hedge funds are investing in the 30-year yield, that means that interest rates are not going to increase anytime soon. That means that the companies that need loans to make more money don't need to get loans at a higher interest rate, which is why the financial sector took a hit. All right. But now if the 30-year yield went down, that would signal that interest rates were going to go up soon. All right. And if interest rates were going to go up, say, for example, banks give out interest rates at 1%. If news came out that banks were increasing interest rates by 1 basis point, that means that they would make way more money per loan, which means that banks would have more money to play with, which would mean that the IWM would be bullish. So as you can see that the IWM was bearish today. And exactly that happened. The IWM was bearish and the NASDAQ was bullish because the 30-year yield was also bullish. All right. And yeah, that's really it. The IWM needs to hold 228.08 as we've been continuing to monitor. You can also see that, the MACD still looks like there's so much more room to go to the downside. But in the shorter term, it looks like the IWM is creating somewhat of a bull flag. It is sustaining 228 as support very, very well. It is clearly not as overextended as the other indices, which means that there is potentially much more room to go to the upside. If the IWM were to catch up to the NASDAQ and the SPY, then, it would be very, very bullish. But once more, it's having trouble staying above this upper level of the bull flag that it created since May. And once again, we've been having trouble sustaining and closing above this for more than 1 day in a row. All right, so this level is very, very important. We just need to continue monitoring how we trade around this level. So yeah, the NASDAQ can continue going on higher. The 30-year yield, we can see that, it's still overbought. It's still oversold, which means that there is much more room to go to the upside. It's sustaining this uptrend pretty well. It's very, very bullish. So now we just need to continue seeing if it can continue on higher. The RSI is also not overbought yet. So all of those things are very nice. Let's look at the dollar now. The dollar, clearly very, very bullish. It's breaking upward out of this bull flag that it created. It's very oversold on the MACD. It's not overbought yet on the RSI, which is another bullish sign. And it's holding support very, very well. So all of those reasons point towards a very bullish move still remaining in the dollar as well. We just need to see if we can hold and sustain 92.07 on the dollar. Now we can see the 10-year yield. So yeah, the 10-year yield obviously is bearish because the 30-year yield is much more bullish, and the NASDAQ is actually going up. Obviously because the 10-year yield is going down. So once more, When the 30-year yield and the dollar go up, the NASDAQ goes up. When the 30-year yield and the dollar, when the 30-year yield and the dollar go up, the NASDAQ goes up. When the 10-year yield and the dollar go up, the IWM goes up. So just rewatch that and try to understand what I just said, because I kind of confused myself. But no, that's really it. 30-year and the dollar going up, that means the NASDAQ is going up and the tech sector is going up. That means that the tech sector and billion-dollar tech companies can ask for more loans without having to pay a higher interest rate. If the 10-year yield and the dollar are going up, that means that the IWM is going to go up, and that means that banks are going to be able to charge a higher interest rate on the loans, and that is why the NASDAQ would go down, okay? So just keep that in mind. Other than that, that's really it on the indices. Let's check out crude oil. Obviously, crude oil was another big reason why the SPY went up. We crossed above both levels, the support and the resistance level. We broke above both of them and are now trading above. So, and we are extremely, overextended at this point now. We need to consolidate a bit. We're extended out of the upper level of the B band. We're extremely overbought, and we're overbought on the MACD. So we need to see if crude oil can sustain this move. Otherwise, we just need to consolidate above these support levels at $75 here, and then we can continue on higher. But overall, crude oil does look bullish, and that should be it for the overall market. Now we're going to go over the crypto market. So as you can see, Bitcoin is still trading within this range here. It's still having trouble crossing above this green line, which was acting as resistance this entire time and was acting as support back here. So this is a very, very, very important trend line, and Bitcoin is having a lot of trouble crossing above. For tomorrow, the level of resistance is going to be 36,200. So Bitcoin needs to cross above 36,200. Some fib levels on the shorter term time frame on Bitcoin. People thought that we closed above the 23.6% fib level. We were creating a bull flag. It looked like there was about to be a breakout, but we fell back below, and we are now back retesting support around 33,350 and 32,580. All right, so these two levels are very, very important to hold. On Bitcoin, the first level of resistance that needs to break is the 38.2% fib level at 34,125. All right, so let's see if this bull flag that's being created on Bitcoin crosses back above, and if we can then cross above this green trend line, and then this very, very important blue trend line resistance here. All right. Otherwise, what needs to happen right now on Bitcoin is that we can see that the MACD is still extremely overbought. Bitcoin is looking bearish. This MACD barely moved down, which means that there is still potentially much more room to go to the downside. And the RSI signaling sharply is a warning signal of that potential move to the downside. So just be careful. 36,200 needs to break tomorrow for this to start trading above the green level. If you remember, a week ago when we did trade above this green trend line and we broke back above, 36,500, people became extremely bullish. So, this is a very, very important trend line. Just keep that in mind. Now we can look at Ethereum. Ethereum is clearly still having trouble at these two very, very important resistance levels that we've been monitoring for weeks now, the 2316 level and 2341. So if Ethereum can cross above these two levels and consolidate a bit, give room and time for the MACD to cool off, that would potentially mean that there is room for the upside and for Bitcoin to follow Ethereum. So it all depends on whether or not Ethereum can cross above these levels of resistance, consolidate a bit, and then it would potentially, give room to the upside for Bitcoin. But otherwise, if Bitcoin never trades above this level, then all of these other altcoins, Ethereum, all of the larger altcoins are not going to do well at all. So we just need to continue watching whether or not Bitcoin can cross above 36,200 and whether or not Ethereum can cross above 23,350. essentially. All right. But yeah, aside from that, it looks like the dollar sensitivity is also, you know, causing Bitcoin to fall as well. So, but yeah, I mean, aside from that, it's very, very simple. We just need to continue monitoring it. Don't force any trades. Don't force any, you know, stupid decisions. Just be patient, wait for good plays and good setups. And yeah, aside from that, have an amazing day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.